we're back in here again, and this paint, it's all nice and dry. And I'm going to have to say the next thing we're going to be doing on the old Ford Ranger here is we're going to go ahead and run our fuel line down the frame and our brake line down there as well. And then we'll start prepping to put the fuel tank in here. So just to show you real quick what I got going on here, here's the steel line, and I ran it right up along the frame rail, and I put it into the same clips that the plastic one was, and it runs right up there to the fuel filter. But I'm just running it along the same spot that the other one was. I got to clip it in to this one right here. I get the light on it there. That one there, and then it will come up. I'm upside down here right now because I'm laying on the floor, but it'll come right up here with this one, and it'll be up there for the fuel pump. And that right there is what I need for right now. And it just runs right back down along where the other ones went. So I'll bend it up a little bit high so it'll clear everything whenever I put the tank and stuff in here. And then I'll just trim this little bit off where I need it after I'm done and ready. I left it a little bit long just so I know I'm good to go. And then with the brake line, it was all zigzagged over there. I ran it into the spots where it's supposed to go. And because it was about 16 inches too long, I left it a little long, cut it off the gun and cut off wheel. And don't worry, don't get all upset. I'll cut that off with a actual tubing cutter, and I'm going to reflare it and make this long enough just so it goes right there where it's supposed to. Make sure you remember to put your end on here. And then just a little trick for bending lines, you just got to be careful you don't kink them. You can put a wrench on them and get you a little bit of leverage. You just want to go a little bit at a time. Keep moving down. That'll help get you what you need. Which that one needs to be about right in there. So that ought to work pretty good. And then next we're going to put on our $5 Rock Auto special brake hose here. And if you send that to Smoketown, hopefully your flare won't leak. Alright, those are all done. I went ahead and just fished those wires up through the frame there. I'm just popping the clips into the spots, and this one here, it just ran down through here with the parking brake cable, and then it hooks to the rear end. It's that one that I fixed. And then the other ones, they just got spots in the frame where these plastic clips pop through holes like that, just the whole way down through there. So the next thing that I'm going to do is go around here and fill the master cylinder full of brake fluid and try to make sure I got fluid coming back to those brakes and stuff, because since I did run the new lines back behind the tank where they do go, and there is a coupling in between them, I would rather find out that that coupling is leaking now than after I've got the tank in, because then I'm ripping brake lines back out and replacing them again. So I finally had some fluid run out of there, and I've got the old lady coming up, and she's going to pump the brakes up for me, and I'm going to crack the bleeders loose, and we'll get these brakes bled out. Alright. We got the rear brakes bled and they ain't leaking nowhere. That fitting up there that I was worried about is good. My fitting right there is good. So rear brakes are handled. Next will be the tank. And now we are going to get this tank up in here and get it plumbed up and everything. Well, first thing we're going to do is take this new sending unit right here, and we're going to set it, or just kind of hold it up here to where, if I can remember right, the plug-in was in straight in the back. Basically, I got to mark this where I'm going to drill it, and I don't want to have the lines in the way of where I've got to put a bolt, because that's going to hinder my day. So I'm probably going to fit this down in there and just see if I can't figure this out. So after a little bit of finagling, I got the sending unit to sit down in here. I mean, it's got these notches in the tank here to where right here and over there, and it's got little tabs on it that line up, but those tabs were bent out just a little bit too wide, so I just had to kind of bend them in slightly. But now it just fits right into place, fits down on there snug. There's an O-ring that goes underneath this too. But basically all I wanted to do was be able to set my ring on here. Look how good that fits. That's just perfect. So just holding that down on, even without the O-ring, I can't move that sending unit. So that's going to be just fine. But I'm going to take a permanent marker and I'm just going to put dots where I want my holes to tap this into the tank. So all I did was make a mark where each one of the lines come out and then put dots where about I think the holes need to be. I'm only going to put 5 screws in it. If that won't hold that in there, then there's something wrong. There's this O-ring that it came with, and it came with new little line clips for the factory line ends. So I just chalked this up in the vise, and I'm just going to go ahead and get this drilled. So there's my ring with all the holes drilled. So we're going to try to fish this tank up in there about as gracefully as possible. Well, it took a little finagling. The sway bar bracket right there kept hanging up on me. You can see where it was digging in. So I put the jack underneath of it, picked it up, and then took a tire bar and pried it forward so that it would slide up in there where it goes. So on these tank straps, it came with these instructions here, because you have to take and slide this piece onto this strap and then bolt it down. So I'm going to put these straps together. I can hear my wife coming. She's going to work. She hit a deer in her vehicle, so she's been having to drive my truck. So, but anyhow, I'm going to slide these together and bolt them up. So on these straps, it's got this little notch, and it just slides into place like that. And then it came with a couple bolts, and you bolt this together, and that's what holds it there. So I don't know how much of that actually got recorded because this camera died. I came out to get an extension, so I'm going back under here to finish this. And like that, the tank strap's in. There's my homemade bracket on my thing. It'll work just fine. The other one. So next it's time to put that big skid plate under there. I slid it up under. I'm going to try to wiggle the jack up under it and get it into position where I can lift it. Now this bolt here I torched off, so I just got a bolt and nut to stick in it because it's easy to get to. So other than a wire or two underneath that I've got to patch up, that should be it underneath the truck. So we're going to go ahead and get this sending unit put in here. And it's a little sloppy, but that ought to do the job. So I got gasket maker squished out around the edges. That ought to seal it off pretty good. So I think it'll be just fine. So I don't know which one of these I want to use. I guess we'll see. Oh yeah, that'd work good. I think I'm going to use this factory end one here. I'm going to grab a couple clamps. I think that's going to fit good and tight. So as for these wires, they still plug on here good, but the plastic's all been chewed off. So I just got some liquid electrical tape here. I'll plug it on there. And apply this stuff. And that'll take care of that. So that is the fuel pump handled. It's done. So the next thing I'm going to go ahead and address is that leaking coolant hose down in there. You can see that clamp and where the mice chewed a hole in it. So it's that one down here. There's right there's the hole. So there's plenty of slack. There's plenty of slack to just cut this off and move it down because that hose runs clear up and goes around and clear back there. So there's enough slack. And real quick before I do this, there's a new discovery. And if you see this right here, that's temperature sending unit, and there's a wire missing. The wire's up under there. So the mice chewed a section of that out. So I'm probably going to take this cover off to get to that and add some wire into it to rehook it up. And up like that she comes. And you can see that there a little bit better. That might have actually blew out, but I don't know. We're just going to cut that off and move it down. The rest of the hose is still good. the end of the sensor, and that little red thing right over there is the end of the wire. But that end of that wire comes right there out of that loom. It's only about, I don't know, 3/4, maybe an inch long. So I'm gonna have some fun with this one. I got down in there with these very, very carefully. I had to stick them down under here and run them up through, and I got them under that wire. But I did manage to get the end of it stripped, so I'm pretty sure my crimpers will reach down in there, and I can get one of those on it with a wire hook to it, and that'll take care of that. So I'm just going to take this here, and I'm just going to fish it down in there, and then I'll reach my crimpers down and crimp it on there. So I just reached down in there with a pair of channel locks and pulled the end of this wire off that sensor. I'm just going to trim this back to where I got enough to hook a crimp onto and slide it back on there. And after you go through all that, here's what you got. That's on there. So I'll tape that up and then I'll plug it back right there onto that sensor. And since we're already right here in this exact corner, let's just go ahead and throw our air filter in here. I guess maybe it just sucks some of this stuff through there. There's a screen inside there and it's got some of this on it too. But yeah, looks like they did a number on that. Yeah, they've been busy in there. So we're just going to very gently blow it out with air. I don't want to make all that stuff go everywhere. God, that stinks. I'd say that in there is a mite bit better than what was in there. So there was some wires that was just barely nibbled on. They weren't chewed clear through. I took some of that liquid electrical tape and just dabbed it on a couple of them. But I got two more that I've actually got to fix. There's the windshield wiper motor here. And I'm not going to make you guys watch me do that, but just addressing these. So I'm going to get those done. So back here on the back, I almost forgot, I've got to put on the new rear vent hose here. And it looks like there's probably a mud dauber's nest in that that's going to need cleaned out too. Glad I pulled that apart. It's plugged clear off, just rusted clear up. As soon as I pulled that plug out, I can smell gear oil. So gear oil is clean. It's just never been able to vent for a long time, it looks like. So, well, I don't know if the gear oil is actually clean. Might be something worth checking into. I might want to check that one day. So upon removing the rubber part from this filler neck, I discovered that there was a hole rusted in it, and I took the grinder to it and the hole became a little bit bigger. So I was going to try to weld this up, but that's not going to happen because I have a feeling there's a lot of thin stuff. So stuff like this here just completely irritates me. So on this brake line here, this is the front brake lines. It runs down right here, runs around, and hooks right over in here. This, to me, was just absolutely sheer laziness on the person's part to hook new line from here to this rusted out old thing when there is plenty of line that they even left slack down in there. All they would have had to do is unscrew this, put it down on here, and flare it, and put it right back into the master cylinder. That's what I'm going to end up doing because this is just ridiculous. Look how rusted out that line is even. That ain't worth nothing. And there she is, ran properly, just like it should be. Straight into there. No freaking compression fittings put in there. Those things are worthless. So, I'm fixing to rob the bumper off this truck. I sprayed these bolts down a while back with penetrating oil, so hopefully they're ready to come out. Alright, so we're going to get ready to put this bumper and hitch on here. Alright, well we somewhat got the bumper on here. I got a couple bolts in it. I'm going to need some longer ones in order to go through the hitch and the bumper because some of them kind of just rusted off. I don't have any bolts this size, so I will probably be going to Tractor Supply tomorrow and getting a few. So I think that's going to be it for tonight, and I'll be back on this tomorrow. So we're back on the truck today, and I got the longer bolts, and these are actually metric bolts. So I got two in the bumper, and the other two that go into the bumper also hold the back half of the hitch on. So I'm going to try to get this picked up and get them started and get them screwed up in here. Alright, there's the bumper and hitch all installed. And no, those are not grade 5 bolts, those are 10.9s, they're just metrics and they're shiny. So, she's on there. So this one license plate light on here was, it's all corroded and rotted out there, so I just clipped one off the other truck and I'm just going to crimp it on here. Alright, I got that spliced up, got those wired in, so this part's coming along. So, update on the fuel filler neck, I broke down and ended up ordering a new one. So, I'm back underneath the truck now, and I gotta adjust these two wires that were chewed in two. I'm just gonna look stuff over real quick, and then after that, I'm gonna go get some gas, and we're ready to test this thing. So, I need to move this old black one out of my way a little bit, so I hooked the chain to the tow hook into the tractor bucket. And I'm just going to pick it up and slide it over here. I got to make some room. I need to bring the brush hog out so I can park it here for a little bit. And I got another guy coming. I got to work on his truck. And I need to get that Ranger out of the garage once I get it started and running. Alright, I dumped some gas in it, hooked the battery up, it's a moment of truth. I'm going to back this thing out of here. I still only have back brakes because I haven't had a chance to bleed the front ones yet. And like that, she's outside. Well, so far it runs and drives. It runs a little rough, it's missing again. I'm assuming a set of new plugs and wires would probably take care of that issue. Or just the fact of actually letting it run for a while might help now that it's got fresh gas in it. And so I might fire it up and just let it sit here for a little bit and see what happens. Oh yeah, and I forgot, it starts with the key now too. See how it's sitting there walking, like it's missing. On the plus side, now, if I push the four-wheel drive button, I can hear something click on the transfer case, and it lights up. And goes back off too. So after I get this thing to run just a little bit better and cleaned up some, I gotta switch the tires and wheels off that truck onto here still, because these ones keep going flat. We'll walk in the hubs and we'll pull her out there on the bank and see if she'll go up it. I can hear a rattling noise, and it's this spring hanger right there broken, rattling on the exhaust. Well, either take that off, I don't know if I need it though. It doesn't look like it's shaking too bad. But back here on the sending unit, everything's good to go, no leaks, nothing's leaking underneath. However, I'm not sure why, but the fuel gauge still isn't working because it's reading completely full and, well, I only put 5 gallons in it, so I know that ain't right. Just for the heck of it, let's see if, hey, they work. That's a plus. So one more thing I forgot, the mice had ate the overflow hose from here to here. So I just pulled it out of the clips over there because it ran down and around in the corner and come back up. So I just pulled it out of the clips over there, pulled the slack out, and rehooked it. It worked just fine. Well, it seems to be running just fine, and the temperature is right up there where it's supposed to be on normal. So we're going to walk these hubs in and then we're going to take it for a test rip. So, update on this, we may be getting a new hub because it looks like somebody beat the ever-living hell out of this with a hammer. I got it in the lock position, so you can see all these flat spots, and that's not supposed to be like that. Alright, we're in the old girl here. It's back on out of those drawings. Alright, so here's a little test hill. We're in two-wheel drive. Hey now, old girl. She just started missing on me here. Alright, so we spun out. Hubs are locked in. It says it's in four-wheel drive. Let's, oh yeah, there we go. She's missing kind of pretty bad now. Ain't got no power, but up the hill we went. So four-wheel drive does work. That is a plus. Okay, so 2 updates. 1, the fan motor. That's definitely got a mouse this time. 2, I can't get it out of four-wheel drive. It doesn't seem like it's still in low range, but the light's still on, and I don't know why. Well, I guess I can. Yeah, we're still in low range. Yeah, definitely. So, not sure what the deal is there. Don't know how to get it out. Maybe push the button and hold it? I don't know. I can't figure it out. I think there's a book on the floor. I might look at it, see what it says. So, I read that owner's manual on the floor, and it said to take it out of four-wheel drive low, you just push the button, and it should go. And see my low range, actually it does look, yes it is. Low range is still lit up. But it says it should come out. and it ain't working. So I may be figuring out what the heck's going on with that as well. Well, that's it for me tonight. I've had enough. I went to work today, came home, messed around with this thing. Now I'm frustrated. Can't get it out of four-wheel drive. I'm just going to call it a night. Be back on this tomorrow after work. So I'm back on the Ranger today, and I walked in the garage, popped the hood, and walked over here and was looking around, and I noticed an issue. And if you look at this top radiator hose, it is sucked clear flat. So I pulled the thing out of the reservoir here, and it is plugged off tight. I was assuming maybe the hose is plugged, so I come over here and I unplugged it, and it popped a little bit, but it didn't suck air in. So I'm guessing I'm going to end up needing a new radiator cap for this thing. If not, I don't think the thermostat could cause that to stay like that, but maybe it would need one of those too. But so I'm going to crack this and I'm going to find out, see if she sucks air in. Yep, I did a little bit. So I'm guessing partly radiator cap. Yeah, the hose is just holding shape now. So I guess I'll need a new radiator cap too. So as far as these hoses here, I'm just going to take the air and blow through them, see if I can't blow the crud out of them. Ooh. Ew. Look at the shit that blew out of that. Yeah, I'd say that might have something to do with it. Huh. This one here is going to be real good because it is plugged up tight too. I can see it. Ooh. I can't even get it to blow air through it. Popped everything back off and hooked it all up and tried to start this and just leave it run for a little bit. I still got to figure out why it's got such a rough idle. I don't know if you can see that thing shaking that bad or not. It runs fine when you rev it up and everything. But I don't know, I'm going to diagnose that. Maybe some plugs and plug wires or something. I'm going to spray some brake cleaner sparking fluid around this, see if it's got a vacuum leak or something, maybe it'll idle up. Well, I sprayed everything down and nothing idled up high or anything, and it didn't pick up any. I don't know. Well, at least I can label the rough idle, nothing else. Maybe some seafoam treatment to it or something might help, I don't know. So I started pulling plug wires off the coil, and I pulled that one and nothing changed. I pulled the first two in the front, and each one of them changed it. I pulled this one, nothing happened. It's still running rough and everything, and I know it's making spark to it. Because of that. So plug, I'm guessing on that one's bad. So we're going to try to get down in here and pull that spark plug right there, because that's the one that wasn't changing nothing. Unhook it. So I'm going to get some tools and pop that out of there, and we're going to look at that plug. So I got that plug out of there. I mean, it's dirty, but I don't know. So I'm going to stick it back into the wire and lay it up here, and I'll start it and see what happens here. I laid that plug right there. It's probably going to fall whenever I start it. We're going to see if it can't see it sparking. Well, considering it's got spark, it doesn't look like a real strong spark, but it does have spark. Um, I don't know if this has, I think it does, individual injectors, fuel injectors. So I'm leaning towards one of those is bad then. So I started this thing back up after I put everything back together. I'm going to pull this plug wire again and show you. It doesn't change anything. I'll have to make a liar out of me. See, didn't change anything. Some good news though, the cooling system is working like it's supposed to now. I heard it bubbling into the reservoir, and that hose right there swelled back out like it's supposed to. So the cap might be alright, it just might be the fact that everything was clear full of gunk. So, that's a good thing, I guess. So, I decided I'm going to reach right here and unplug that fuel injector. And to look at this, it's hard to see without the light. But those connections are green. I mean, really corroded up and green. So I'm going to spray them down with some contact cleaner, and I'm hoping I get lucky and that takes care of it. I really don't feel like pulling the intake to get to that one injector. Especially since it's so conveniently right there, but you still have to pop the fuel rail off to get to it. Well, unfortunately that didn't do it either. Unplug it, it still won't change nothing. Well, basically, I got this thing good and warm, letting it sit here and run. Once it cools down, I'll come back to this, and I'll probably just put this camera on time lapse and just get the intake tore off here so I can get down to the fuel injectors. I will probably, going in this deep, I'll probably replace all 6. I don't know. We'll just have to play that part by ear, but we'll see what happens. So on the old Ranger here, we got the new filler neck in the mail. Got it put on. That wasn't no big deal, but that part's done. So before I start on these injectors, just looking down in here, you can see all the dirt and everything. So this is going to need cleaned up first. So what I'm going to do is blow it out with air, take it outside, hose it or pressure wash it, bring it back in and blow it off with air again, and then I'm going to let it dry, and then I'll tear this apart. I'm probably not going to record all this, but I'm just letting you know what I'm going to do to prevent stuff. Well, we're back on this truck today, and we got our new injectors here. So we're going to go ahead and get started on this. I should probably put the camera on time lapse and let her go. So I just found out something. It's a good thing I did do this, because this gasket was shoved down in like that, and this intake tube had holes in it. So I just had to Google this to figure it out, but evidently on these 4.0s you have to pull these studs because it holds this fuel rail system on here onto the injectors. So I'm going to be taking those out next. And just in case you didn't know, you got to have these goofy looking sockets, in order to take those out. This here's those studs that hold that fuel rail down on there. Here's what everything's looking like down in here. I should have freed this fuel rail system up. Yep, there it popped a little bit. Alright, so I got that up off there. I peeled that old gasket off. Almost all the O-rings on those injectors are stuck into the fuel rail, so I'll have to make sure I pry those out. One of them popped out, well, it fell out after I pulled it off, but there it is. So, but there's down in your intake, there's the injectors, and I'll just unplug those one at a time and pop a new one in its place, and then we'll put this thing back together. I'm going to clean this up just a little bit, probably some brake cleaner rag, wipe it down. So there's not much that I can do about it, but if you look here, and you see this plastic piece that's on the end of this injector? Whenever I pulled this one out and it popped off and I reached down in to get the O-ring, the plastic piece actually fell down into the cylinder. There's not much I can do about that. I mean, it's just plastic. It should just break up and blow out, so I ain't too concerned with it, but just something to look out for if you do this. So to try to help get these injectors out easier, I'm just moving them around, wiggling them, and spraying penetrating oil down in there, trying to get something down to those O-rings to hopefully make them slide out a little easier. And I got that one to pull everything came out, including the plastic, so that's a good thing. Well, there's all the injectors pulled out, so I'm going to try to clean some of this up a little bit, start popping new ones in, and put this fuel rail back on here. So on account of all the crap that I sprayed down in there, and the brake clean, and the dirt and stuff like that got in there, I'm going to unplug the fuel pump. This way I don't get no fuel coming out of there. I unplug the coil, and I'm just going to crank the engine and just try to blow some of that shit up out of there, just so that I don't have to worry about it hydrolocking or perhaps firing on that brake clean and stuff like that was in there. before I get too carried away and put everything back together. I do believe I got them all in there. Kind of hard to see everything. Yeah, that one looks good. That one looks pretty good. Yeah. The only one I really can't see is this one right in here. And I mean, it is just completely buried. So I'm going to try to move some wires and maybe check that one, but everything, intake seems to be back on. Whatnot. Alright, I got it all back together, other than I didn't put hose clamps on this because I'm probably going to end up replacing it. Everything should be plugged back in, and as far as I can tell anyway, I don't think I forgot anything. So we're going to crank her over and see if she fires up and runs now. Well, that motor most certainly idles a lot smoother. It's not shaking like it was. I guarantee you if I unplug that plug wire right there, it's going to make it change now. Actually. Moved her right out. Well, that injector will look bad. Well, that there was changing the injectors and everything. Took care of that issue. Well, that there is going to conclude part 2 of the Ford Ranger Resurrection. That there was doing the injectors and everything. And if you guys like seeing videos like this, go check out the rest of my channel. Appreciate you watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks.